Are you a US citizen who is engaged to your fiance who lives abroad? In this video, I'm going to cover the fiance visa application process. My name is Ashley and I'm an immigration attorney. I only practice immigration law, which I've been doing now for nearly 13 years. All right, so if you are a US citizen and your fiance lives outside of the United States, they're from a different country, let's talk about the fiance visa process. So the first step in this process is that you, as the US citizen, need to file the I-129F petition here in the United States. This is a petition that goes to USCIS that you need to show different things in order for them to approve it. So the requirements for the I-129F petition are that you and your fiance have a bona fide relationship. So this means showing USCIS with documentary evidence that your relationship is legitimate and that you are not intending to get married in the US only for the purpose of having your fiance receive a green card. So things like, showing text conversations that you've had, a history of phone calls with your fiance over a lengthy period of time, pictures of you guys together, cards maybe that you sent one another, letters from people who know about your relationship. All of these kinds of documents can be used to show that your relationship is legitimate. The other requirement is that you have met your fiance in person at some point within the previous 2 years. So a lot of times this looks like, you as a US citizen going to visit your fiance in their home country. So for this, you can show USCIS your travel itinerary, plane tickets that you may have purchased, pictures of you and your fiance in their native country. Again, you can use letters from anybody else who was present during that visit, perhaps members of your fiance's family. These are all documents that can be used to show immigration that you have actually met in person within the last 2 years. There are some exceptions to this requirement of having met within the last 2 years, specifically if there's a religious reason as to why you haven't met in person, or if you as a petitioner can show that meeting in person would cause extreme hardship for you in some way, you can explain that to immigration to try and get an exception to this requirement. But generally speaking, you do want to have this requirement met. The third requirement for the I-129F petition is that you and your fiance are free to legally marry. So this means that if either of you have been married previously, that you need to provide proof that those marriages have been legally terminated through the divorce process. So that looks like a divorce judgment for either of you to show immigration that you both are free to legally marry one another in the future. The fourth requirement for the I-129F petition is that you and your fiance intend to get married within 90 days of your fiance's eventual entry to the United States. Evidence to show this can look like communications that you may have had with certain vendors for your wedding, perhaps a catering company, or going to look at a specific venue, if there's any kind of email correspondence with any company associated with planning your wedding. Also, a requirement for the I-129F petition is a declaration from each of you talking about your relationship, how you met, why you want to be married, your engagement story, and what your plans are for your future. And so in this declaration, you can also talk about your intent to be married within 90 days, things that you two have talked about with respect to your wedding or your marriage ceremony. All right, so these are the general requirements for the I-129F petition. This petition gets filed with USCIS here in the United States. USCIS has to approve this petition before your fiance can actually apply for their K-1 visa. So what happens is after this petition gets approved is it is transferred to another agency that's called the National Visa Center. This is where your fiance will then actually submit their K-1 visa application along with other required supporting documents. Once the NVC has received, again, NVC is the National Visa Center. Once the NVC has received the proper applications and the required filing fees and the required supporting documents, eventually the case will be transferred to the US consulate in your fiance's home country where they will be scheduled for an interview. Your fiance will attend the interview, and if all goes well, the U.S. immigration officer will issue their K-1 visa for them to enter the United States. Then, once your fiance enters the United States, you two need to marry within that 90-day period. After you get married, you can then file for the adjustment of status for your fiance, which is their green card. So that's the process of applying for a green card from inside the United States. So this is generally the process of filing for the K-1 visa. A lot of people don't realize that there are these multiple steps involved. They don't realize that the I-129F petition does need to be approved first before their fiance can actually apply for the visa. But this is a great option for a lot of people. If you have any further questions about the fiancé visa process, don't hesitate to reach out, like, comment, subscribe to my channel here. You can always call my office at 760-812-3778.